What's up, everybody? So today I'm here to tell you a horror story about driver qualification files. Yeah, I'm walking around like Tempe, Arizona tonight. It is crazy. Man, at home, they just got like 9 inches of snow and I'm down here like burning up in a sweatshirt. I guess my hands are a little chilly. But anyways, my point is like, I want to tell y'all a horror story about DQ files. Now, let me tell you this. I was working for this one company one time. Got a lot of horror stories around this stuff. But I was working for this one company one time, and they were telling me about what had happened. They had hired us to come in and help them. And they were like, yeah, you would never believe what happened to the company down the road. And I was like, what happened to the company down the road? And they said, well, they got audited. And I was like, oh, really? Well, that's not that normal. People get audited all the time. Like, what's the big deal about getting audited? And they're like, no, they got audited because they got in a lawsuit. And I was like, oh, well, what did the lawsuit do? And they're like, well, they had a driver that got into an accident. And I said, huh, that's interesting. But they're out there driving. You're like, what happened? And they're like, well, they came in and they closed the gates and they put a lock on the gates. And I was like, because of an accident? That don't make sense. Something's wrong here, right? And it was like, yeah. So they did that. So I did a little bit of research on it because I wanted to know myself. So I got a hold of the officer that did the investigation, and I got a hold of, the paper, because all that crap is public documentation, man. And so I was sitting there and I was going through it all because I love to study crap. Like when something comes up that ain't right, I'm like, oh, it's gold. I'm gonna check it out, right? So I was checking it out. And anyways, as I go through this, I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, something is off. Okay? And so I was just like going through all the papers for these things, for this lawsuit, and I started reading on everything that was there. And you know what I saw? Not only did they name the manager of the guy who was driving the truck in this lawsuit, they froze his assets, okay? But they actually named the secretary who filled out the paperwork with him because she knew he wasn't qualified to operate that vehicle. She knew he didn't have a CDL, and she marked off he had a CDL on the paper. And they froze her assets. Now, long story short, when you dig into this, they froze her assets for 8 months for both the manager and the driver and the secretary. Now, let me ask you a quick question, okay? Could you handle having all of your bank accounts froze for 6 months? No, no way. No way. That'd be so hard. How would you survive? What would you even do? And so, just kind of something to keep in mind there, right? When you're doing these DQ files, that's why it's so important that you do them right. It's so important that you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, because if you don't, all right, the repercussions can be huge, and you don't want that to come back on you at all. So it's super important that you don't ever fill out a paper for anybody who's not there with you, or they haven't given you permission to do it, like over the phone, okay? If you're talking to them on a phone, you totally fill out papers for them, no problem. And if you read the whole paper to them, you can even sign it digitally for them. But you've got to read that whole disclaimer to them. You can't be like, hey, this is what this form means. You got to say, this is what the form means, and this is what it says. I'm going to read you this form word for word, okay? All right. Hopefully that didn't scare y'all too bad. Hopefully it was just used for learning and lessons, because that's what I want. I want y'all to be like, oh, damn, it's a great lesson. Love that lesson. I don't want you to be like, oh, I don't want to fill out paperwork anymore. I'm too scared. Don't be a wuss, okay? Just do it, but do it right, all right? All right. Y'all got questions? Y'all got comments? Y'all got any stories? Hit me up. I'd love to hear them. All right. Tell me later.